The city of Ouagadougou, which is located in the middle of West Africa and is well known for its oppressive heat, saw a total transformation as a result of the fact that a single shot from a gun was fired. On the other hand, the bullet does not serve as the major focal point of attention in this particular section of the narrative. The female individual who operated as a barrier to the progress of the business is the subject of this particular tale, which places the emphasis on the character of the female individual. The person in question is the one who placed her own life in jeopardy in order to protect a revolution from the potential consequences that could result from it. One of the individuals depicted in the image that can be viewed above is the woman who made the statement that she would be willing to take a bullet for President Ibrahim Traoré. In the year 2022, Captain Ibrahim Traoré became more than just a soldier, and he climbed to popularity all across the world. As time went on, he rose to prominence all around the world. The occurrence of this happened throughout the period of time when he was in charge of the government. Right in the heart of Burkina Faso is a sign that is indicative of the African fight, freedom, and fire. This symbol may be found in the middle of the country. A representation of this emblem can be found in the geographic center of the nation. Taking into account the fact that not everyone was happy to find out about the fire is something that ought to be taken into mind. During the time that they were hiding in the shadows, their adversaries were carrying out their plans and keeping a careful eye on them. Both of these activities were taking place simultaneously. The individual who was being particularly designated as the subject of the discussion was referred to by the name Aissa Zongo. A nurse practitioner is a person who has previous experience working as a medical professional while serving in the military. This individual is the recipient of the title. In addition to being his daughter, he is employed in the gold mining industry. The mining of gold is what her father does for a living. A person who is fierce and who is completely absorbed in the activity that is taking place at the moment. She had been present from the beginning of the war. She had offered assistance to those who had been injured, and she had placed her own body to rest after the conflict was over. In addition to that, she had made a contribution to the provision of medical assistance to individuals who had experienced injuries. Her objective was to refrain from wearing the medals at any point in time when they were being awarded to athletes. Taking the spotlight for herself was not her goal, and she had no intention of doing so in the near future. She was not interested in doing so. She was able to seal her position in the annals of history at the very moment when it was the most suitable for her to do so, despite the fact that she was unable to do so. Issa made the decision to join the company and become a member of the elite protection unit of Traoré. This decision was made due to the fact that the year 2023 was becoming closer and closer. There was no way that she could have been the tallest person in the room by any stretch of the imagination. Even though she was the one who moved the quickest, she was not the one who was actually doing the movement. She did not show any signs of fear or anxiety at any point in time, regardless of the circumstances mentioned above. The emancipation of Africa, which was something that was far more important than herself, was something that she had faith in. She was of the opinion that it was their duty to lead Africa to freedom. On the 8th of October in the year 2024, which was the year when the experiment was carried out, it was determined that the belief in question would be put to the test once more. This decision was made in the year 2024. The day in question was meant to be a day that was filled with joy and celebration from the very outset of the events that were to take place. The idea that there should be no borders, no protection, and just oneness was one that President Traoré put forward in the address that he delivered to the nation. He also advocated for the elimination of boundaries. One of the statements that he made was in his address. To everyone's surprise, big groups of people began to congregate among themselves. There was a static charge which was present in the atmosphere. The atmosphere contained the static charge. With the first shot of the war being fired at 4:17 p.m., which was the time that the fighting began, the war was officially declared to have begun. A hollow point round was fired at the target, which was a sniper who was standing on a rooftop with the purpose of shooting the head of state. The head of state was supposed to be killed by the bullet, and actually, that was the purpose that it was supposed to accomplish. It was possible for the bullet to deviate from the target that it was aiming for, despite the fact that it was directed toward the target. Taking advantage of the shimmering of a scope, which was something that Issa was familiar with and employed, She utilized it to her advantage. Sooner than anything else that was going to take place, she was the one who took the initiative to act, which occurred sooner than everything else. She was able to go ahead and position herself in such a manner that she was in the position of being between the gunman and her president by performing a single gesture as she walked forward. This gesture made it possible for her to move forward and position herself in such a way. The reason that she was able to accomplish this was due to the fact that she was able to go forward. It was possible for her to receive injuries as a result of the incident because the bullet was able to breach both her shoulder and her chest through which it passed through. A loss of blood occurred as a consequence of the occurrence that took place. A disintegration had taken place in the physical form that she held. All of the people who were present in the crowd were experiencing a state of fear that was absolute and horrific. There was a possibility that people could be heard crying while they were present. Upon initial inspection, it seemed as though the sniper had disappeared from the scene. Upon initial inspection, it appeared as though the security men of Traoré were surrounding him from every direction. The lifeless body of Aissa, which was lying on the ground in the midst of the chaos, was one of the items that was able to successfully capture the essence of the people who formed the population of the nation. There were millions of people all over the world who went without breathing for a large amount of time. This occurred throughout the course of a period of time that may be measured in hours. In light of everything that had been said and done, what exactly was the identity of this woman? Does she appear to be on the verge of passing away at this precise moment? She was barely clinging to life when she was transported to a military hospital for treatment. She was in critical condition. The condition that she was in was really significant. In total, there were 2 different processes that were carried out throughout the duration of the event. During the course of today, there have been a total of 5 blood transfusions that have been performed. Additionally, she was able to emerge victorious in spite of everything that was occurring place. This was a significant accomplishment. On that specific evening, the President of the Republic, Traoré, paid her a visit. However, he did so in a manner that was unobtrusive and away from the cameras while he was there. In addition, he continued by adding, "You didn't just save me," despite the fact that he was holding her hand. This was despite the fact that he was doing just that. We have been given a small reprieve from the fires that we are trying really hard to defend ourselves against, and you have provided us with this escape. In addition to this, there was a significant deal of additional information that needed to be taken into consideration. In spite of the fact that it was a rifle of exceptional grade that could not be traced back to its owner, the weapon that was recovered was the same one that had been utilized by the sniper. On the other hand, a burner phone is something that can be discovered wandering around the neighborhood when one is looking for it. The conversations that have been included in this part have been encrypted for your protection. These communications have been included here. When referring to calls that are relayed through servers that are located within the geographical boundaries of the European Union, the term European calls is used. There are other references made to a French private military force that is now conducting operations in West Africa and has connections to oil interests in that region. It is noted more than once that this organization is being discussed. In terms of involvement, this organization is mostly concerned with West Africa. It is the responsibility of this organization to oversee the operations that are carried out in West Africa. In both of these instances, it is important to point out that the victim was not the only one who was subjected to physical violence. That was, without a doubt, a highly effective warning, to be sure. There is no doubt about that. It was determined that an excessive number of individuals had disobeyed Traoré, which resulted in the closure of an excessive number of foreign bases, the seizure of an excessive number of mines, and the rejection of an excessive number of projects in that order. A significant number of people had disobeyed Traoré's orders without his permission. When compared to the cost of paying a bribe, the cost of obtaining a bullet was far less than the cost of this transaction which was being discussed. On the other hand, the bullet was not successful in striking the target that it was created to strike in the manner that it was supposed to hit. In addition to that, it resulted in the creation of a brand new icon, which is a remarkable accomplishment that was brought about as a consequence of this endeavor. As a result of the fact that her name was hushed throughout the entirety of the Sahel region, it appeared as though prayers were being given up for her all the way across the Sahel. They were heard to be repeating it in Mali, according to the material that was in the possession of the investigators. There was a quick increase in the number of murals that were created in Ghana, which led to a large increase in the quantity of murals. Women in Senegal wore clothing that were designed to bring attention to their faces during that particular period in the country's history. Considering that fire was the only tactic he was familiar with at the time, Traoré decided to employ it in order to take his revenge. This was the only technique he was familiar with at the time. The following statement was made by him as he was addressing a national address. They sent mercenaries. In reference to the circumstance, he made this statement. During the time when the message was being distributed, a female was the recipient of it. A gunshot was fired into the air at that precise moment by those individuals. Almost immediately after that, her blood was transferred to a laboratory for further analysis. It is blood that will be used to do the job of watering the liberation of this nation, and the utilization of blood will be the method by which this labor will be carried out. Blood is going to be necessary. A number of significant announcements were made during the presentation that he had given the day before, which was the same presentation that he had given the day before. Individuals who are members of the military's family would be entitled for benefits that would continue for the remainder of their lives if they were to qualify for them. This brand new medal, which was designed in this manner, is referred to as the Zongo Cross, and it was designed in the manner in which it was designed. It was Isa who was the first individual to receive this honor, who emerged as the beneficiary of this recognition. As a prerequisite for her to participate in the rehabilitation process, she had to travel a path that was not only lengthy, but also tortuous. In the case that she expended an adequate amount of effort, she would be able to regain the ability to walk. I would appreciate it if we could have another talk. She was speaking in a manner that was more empathic, and at the same time, the intensity of her gaze was significantly higher than it had been in the past. However, she did not show any enthusiasm in taking part in the interviews that were being conducted. Her decision to decline the offer of financial assistance was a decision that she made on her own responsibility. She responded to the question of why she had done it by saying, "Because Africa must live." This provided an answer to the question. The response that was sent in response to the request was extremely thorough. It was referred to as a play by a number of different press outlets from all over the world while they were describing it. According to the comments that were made, it is impossible for anyone to have survived a bullet of that magnitude without being killed. None of the people who could have survived were there. The information that they had provided conveyed the idea that it was, in reality, a fake to begin with. The scar that is located on her back, the limp in her walk, and the emotion that appears in Traoré's eyes whenever her name is mentioned are not evidence that she is emulating the behavior of another individual. On the other hand, the scar is located on her back. Among all of these characteristics, Traoré is the only one who possesses them all. According to these pieces of evidence, the war has not been fought on the battlefields as much as it has been fought in the hearts of those who have fought it. This is the proof that demonstrates this. It is likely that Isa's current residence is located in the surroundings of Bobo Dioulasso, which is one of the possibilities that might be considered, in a manner that is similar to speaking in a whisper. Every time one is by one's lonesome, she teaches first aid to the younger women of the hamlet. Her students are the younger women. She is the one who imparts knowledge to them for the first time. In order for her to be able to pay her respects to the widows of service personnel who have passed away, it is vital for her to travel. There is not a single instance in which she mentions the exact moment when the shooting occurred during the course of the chat. On the other hand, those who are conscious are able to remember everything without fail, regardless of the situations they are in. Traoré's literature is filled with numerous instances of the words, "Every revolution has its martyrs," which is a phrase that appears quite frequently. There are a few of these cases that stand out considerably. Having said that, they do make an appearance every once in a while occasionally. The absence of them is not entirely denied. During the period under consideration, there was a person who was still alive and went by the name of Isa Zongo. It is a subtle reminder to us that bravery does not emerge from the power that we hold within ourselves, and the fact that she was able to make it through the trauma serves as nothing more than a simple reminder of this truth. It is the impact of having conviction that something takes place, which is caused by the fact that one is convinced of something. Even though she was wearing armor, the fact that she did not have any on did not negate the fact that she was wearing armor. During the entirety of the time period in question, neither she nor anyone else ever attempted to pull the trigger on the firearm. Despite the fact that she was in the middle of a dream and the beginning of the end of the world, she somehow managed to change into a barrier that stood between the two. One more thing to take into mind is that when history looks back on the struggle for Africa's soul, it will not just remember the generals, presidents, or speeches that took place during that conflict. Rather, it will remember the entire movement. This is something that should be taken into consideration. As a result of the fact that every facet of the conflict will be recalled after it has been addressed, this is exactly what will happen. A lady will be remembered as a result of the events that have transpired as a consequence of this and other reasons. Throughout the course of my career, I have held the position of paramedic. The individual in question has a daughter who is also one of the folks with whom we are concerned. The person who made the decision to end her own life in order to protect Traoré from any harm that might have been caused.